"Onward and upward," Rady hollered in a rather uncharacteristically unladylike tone, which pleased everyone. Stuffing all their remains into the basket, they slung it high over a branch in the hopes that some small animal might not decide to investigate it. Swinging off the fallen oak they had perched on, they soon continued up the rocky slopes. Eddy after eddy passed, and the gang was soon within sight of the spooky ruins of the old Manchester mill. The burned-out shell reached skyward, poking 3 or 4 stories above the surrounding foliage. Lizzie counted 5 stories to the peak of the crumbling south wall and demanded the right to scale it. "We'll have to be careful," Dewey noted, but it was a pretty solid building in its day. The Yankees just burned out the inside, but the walls have held up pretty well over time. Lizzie rambled through the cascading waters, but misjudging the depth of a particular swirl, stepped ahead, only to fall face down in the muddy pool. Jumping up quickly, but finding herself mired in a foot of mud, she could only sheepishly face her compatriots and accept their taunts and teasing. "What was it I just said about being careful?" Dewey began. "Lizzie, you look uncomfortable," Rady added. Lizzie presented a silly picture. The muddy water had soaked through the front of her dress and did not rinse clean in spite of her best efforts to remove it. Her backside, however, washed spotlessly white. Jennifer suggested she lay back down in the water so as to at least appear balanced, but since there was no especially good motivation for retaining an immaculate appearance, she labored out of the gurgling gully and continued her approach to the ruins. She did decide to let Dewey lead the way, however. "Help yourself to some gold, girls," Dewey announced as they bounced off the last rocky boulder onto terra firma. He pointed down at the shoreline, which was littered with a spectacular array of shiny golden speckles. Liz was already on her knees, skipping up handfuls of the pretty stuff and scrambling for as many of the larger rocks as she could extricate. The gold mine had been a disappointment, albeit an exciting one, but now she was elated to find such a plethora of mineral so easily. Rady was squatting down to examine the situation, began explaining about the find. Jenny merely smiled. "Don't you want some gold?" Liz hollered. "Sure, I'd love some, but gold is not what you're so avidly collecting," Jenny pronounced knowingly. The city girl's enthusiasm fell precipitously. "Fool's gold. Iron pyrite," Jenny informed them. "It's all over the place up here. It breaks off the shoals as the water runs over it. All the potholes are full of the sediment." "How can you be sure it's not gold?" Lizzie asked, unable to break the clutch of her first holding, what she calculated to be at least $50 million. "Much too soft," Dewey replied. "Pick at it with your fingernail and it'll fall apart," he instructed. "Real gold is much harder." After experimenting, they all agreed with Dewey's pronouncement, but the 4 youngsters spent a few minutes panning for the real thing, just in case they had been mistaken. Dewey condescended to offer his experienced instruction. A little further up the path, the crumbling, jagged bricks of the factory dotted the landscape. Huge bushes had grown over the foundation footings, and the children searched the upper floors for a possible opening. The stoic tress cast a gloomy pallor on the scene. Outcroppings of ferns and weeds hung down at various intervals. The creek rushed on in the distance, but the air was very still, and the forest reverberated with an eerie silence. A catbird warbled faintly, stopped, and then began again. "No one lives here now?" Lizzie asked suddenly. "No," Dewey answered. "There used to be a whole town nestled between the hills here. A hotel, store, a warehouse, and about 30 homes. More than 350 people lived here. But Sherman incinerated the mill and destroyed all the buildings," he continued. "Came in while the place was running full tilt. Threw kerosene all around and had quite a barbecue. Worst of it all, though, he packed all the people, mostly young girls, off to Marietta and then shipped them up north to Louisville and to Indiana. Most were never heard from again. After the war, steam power was the common thing, and I guess they thought it just was too much trouble to set back up again. So the place just faded away. Now the mill ruins is all that's left of it. That and a few rock porch steps laying around, he finished. If I was rich, Liz went on calmly, I'd buy this land and keep the whole place to myself. Oh, don't be silly, Liz, came Rady's remonstrance. What good is a town with no people and no business? Well, maybe the peoples would come back someday. It'd be awful sad if they didn't find anything worth coming home for. Jenny and Dewey glanced at each other and agreed that Liz had a profound point. Say, so you like cotton mills, Liz? Do you like 'em as much as mines? Jenny asked, wondering if Liz had forgiven her for a certain incident in connection with the latter. Sure, Liz sang. Buildings like this I like. Buildings belong to themselves. At this point, the young philosopher tripped on a large root and nearly fell. Jenny, in front of her, offered a steadying hand and was surprised to feel Liz accept it graciously. She didn't release it either when the need had passed, and they continued around the factory together. Evidently, the youngster bore no grudge. They stopped to examine the old wheel lying forlornly in the creek at the bottom of a huge room. Rotten wood planks hung limply above the water. Those in the water had long ago decayed and washed away. Trees and shrubs grew up inside the wall of the wheel room. The giant blocks that at one time arched gracefully over the creek lay scattered amidst the weeds. The creek sidewall had given way into the stream, but several huge brick shafts reached skyward. Those were chimneys, Dewey informed the group. See the hearth on each floor? Exposed rafters and burnt floor joists hung limply out of the walls. Puddles of rainwater collected in numerous crevices. The factory exuded a grim air of impregnability, but there was a break in the walls on the creek side, and a rough way up the foundation stones where two old wheel posts stood sentinel. All four explorers dashed about excitedly. Jenny had been to the mill only a few times before, but she felt a strong investigative thrill race in her veins. Dewey was ecstatic. This was something special to him, a fine treasure to explore. Quiet, far away from people in the world.